Hey guys, I keep getting ads for muscle milk, and I have to say, I can't believe that this product is still around. I do remember the first time I saw muscle milk, probably in a bodega in New York, and couldn't believe that it was a real product. But I just want to say congrats to Muscle Milk for enduring what is a really competitive beverage market and existing in 2026. I wanna get back to some discussion on Chinese places next to Food Lions in North Carolina and the South in general. Um, I've recently realized that Chinese places in North Carolina don't have cold sesame noodles on the menu. I'm pretty sure this is a thing in New York, maybe not Connecticut, and I think some places in Chicago offer this on what would be the appetizer portion of the menu or towards the top of the menu, smaller items. You could order a cold dish that was like a full meal size for portion of noodles, cold sesame peanut noodles. They don't have them down here. At least I have not encountered any. And now that I'm thinking about it, the sauce that would go on the cold peanut noodles is sometimes what you would find in an egg roll at certain Chinese places, and that's why it was so good. Okay, what other updates do I have? Let's talk about Wegmans, the grocery store, which is now in the South. My former supervisor has reported that they have rainbow cookies and not the weird, puffy rainbow cookies that you see in the grocery store sometimes that have multiple colors blotched all over them. I'm talking about the Italian rainbow cookies with the layers. It's basically cake. Apparently, Wegmans has them. That might be the motivation I need to finally get my ass to Wegmans because apparently the cheap and affordable prices aren't enough to get me to go down there. I just never drive in the direction of Wegmans. And I guess you have to factor that into the affordability of groceries. If you're spending gas money driving in a different direction just to get groceries, maybe it's not more affordable. Okay, let's move on to this news story headline: How Missing Little Debbie Snacks Uncovered a $17,000 fraud case in Western Pennsylvania. That's not that much fraud. I will say, when I was at Milk Bar, there was this girl who stole over $10,000 from us from Christina Tosi, I guess. I remember I was the location manager at the time, and I was like, "I don't there's something about this person, I don't wanna hire her." The HR person overrode me and said she really wanted to hire her, so she hired her, and over the course of a few years, she stole money from the register, and she was able to do this because it was at one of the pop-up markets that we would do, so it was a little bit more loose. No cameras. And anyway, she ended up getting fired. So I mean, in this grand scheme of things, that's not a ton of money. $17,000 fraud case in Western Pennsylvania. Um, Stewart Snacks, an independent distributor of Little Debbie snack products, contacted a department in Ohio. Those missing products were believed to be connected with deliveries. Wait, so all these Little Debbie snacks were disappearing? Do you think maybe someone ate $17,000 worth of product? I know a former Milk Bar manager, I won't say which location, who probably did eat $17,000 worth of product. So there's someone in jail over this. $17,000 worth of Little Debbie snacks is kind of a lot. So fake invoices were made to grocery stores, Shop and Save, Giant Eagle, Walmart. They were never actually delivered. So there's like a Little Debbie black market in Pennsylvania that you could tap into. What else do I have? I was trying to think of what those trending fat cookies look like to me. I have a hard time, like, whenever something is a certain size, I try and find another object to compare it to. And sometimes I have trouble with this particular size, but I figured out what it might be: fist sized. Those cookies that are fist size, but also in the shape of a fist. I guess it depends on how big your hand is, but I'm I'm so puzzled by the fist shaped cookies that everybody wants to eat. It looks like your cookie is trying to punch you in the mouth. I have a fruit update. I went back and bought apriums. So aprium on the plum apricot spectrum, if you might remember, is about 75% apricot, 25% plum. It does look like a plum. I guess the purple is always going to override the orange, but it's the fuzzy texture of an apricot. It has a nice firm flesh, great flavor, some tartness. I think I like it better than the other versions. I think I might like it best out of all the possible options so far. Let's talk about the New York Times cooking app. I was scrolling through the app looking at recipes when it occurred to me. I'm always criticizing restaurants that are trying to do too much and have a huge menu and are always changing their menu, and they have an Asian dish on the menu for some reason and a barbecue dish on the menu for some reason when they're actually making Italian food, and I'm like, "Oh my god, am I just repeating that problem in my own house?" Just trying to make different recipes all the time. Should I specialize like a good restaurant that just focuses on one thing? Should I just specialize and make like 10 recipes top? I guess I kind of do that. I just keep making curry over and over again. Also, I have to say the New York Times cooking app this past month has been really difficult to navigate because it's like 90% corn recipes because it is sweet corn season, which I'm glad for everybody who enjoys sweet corn, but I just don't get excited by it. And then this recipe came up. What is it? Sheet pan baked feta with broccolini, tomatoes, and lemon. It made me remember the time that Brian's mom made this recipe. It didn't go very well. It sort of ended up being a sheet tray of water, like vegetables, like really soft vegetables in a ton of water with a block of feta in the middle. I don't Well, obviously it's user error, but I think it's a flawed recipe and it's a hard recipe to approach. I think maybe the oven temp was off or something, but roasting a bunch of different kinds of vegetables together is not for the beginner because especially like tomatoes, which are going to put out a ton of water. Anyway, I commend Brian's mom for making that recipe. She has a fast and hard rule where she just makes one meal. And when you come over, that's the meal you're eating. And she made an exception because the family that was coming over, she invited them over because their father had just died. So there's one vegetarian in the bunch. She made a separate vegetarian meal as to not subject the entire family to the water vegetables. I wonder if is that the vegetarian experience? Like people try and make you something and it's just like so crazy. It's just like a sheet tray of water. If I have people over and they have dietary restrictions, I will cater to them happily, but we will only be having one meal. And that meal will include all of the restrictions in one. Because I've accidentally gone the other route where I've allowed 3 or 4 different meal requests at one time with house guests, and that quickly got stupid. And I don't understand how people do that for their families every night. It seems unsustainable labor-wise. It also feels like it could create a lot of food waste and, like, you just have to buy more food in general. But then at the same time, maybe it is reducing food waste because the food that's made for each person is actually being eaten. Let's talk about the faculty member I work with who keeps recommending me things to watch on Netflix, such as Eat, Pray, Love. I think that the next time he asks me if I have Netflix, because he's asked multiple times at this point, I'm going to say no. Or should I keep saying yes and see what he recommends me? It's like, do you keep forgetting that I have Netflix, or do you think that my Netflix access is on a week to week basis? I think I'm going to make him a letterbox account that he doesn't know about and start adding the movies that he recommends me. This same faculty member also recently went on a beach trip with his family last week, and he told me that he left early because the beach was too loud. Last update before we get into scents. I was thinking about the Broma Bakery vanilla cake recipe that I made and how it compares to the King Arthur sour cream coffee cake, which was super light and fluffy. Basically the same recipe, except King Arthur uses more flour and buttermilk. Um, so King Arthur uses 2 cups or 240 grams of flour compared to Broma's 1.5 cups or 180 grams of cake flour. King Arthur uses a full cup of buttermilk compared to Broma's 2/3 cup. I think if I were to try to make another vanilla cake moving forward, I might just honestly use this King Arthur cake base because I think the extra flour gives it this dry fluffiness that I was looking for, and I would add vanilla, to the King Arthur recipe because the King Arthur recipe only uses butter. Well, hmm, I don't know. Anyway, I might experiment with, like, some sort of hybrid vanilla cake recipe between those 2 because I do like the Broma recipe, but I thought it was a little bit dense in the middle. Okay, let's move on to scents. I wanna talk about the Gap re-releases for just a second because that's really all the news I have. Gap is re-releasing their scents from the '90s that I'm always talking about, Freshly Cut Grass, Heaven, and Ohm. And since the '90s, there have been new regulations and restrictions on scent compounds and what you can produce. So they're not gonna be the exact same scents, but they will be similar, I guess, and plus they said they had to update the scents anyway to, appeal to a new audience. So we'll see what they smell like. Actually, Brian's dad just mowed my lawn a few minutes ago, and I stepped outside, and it smelled like freshly cut grass, as you might imagine. And I thought of the Gap perfume, and I wonder if it will capture that essence like it did in the '90s. Okay, let's get into my blind review of Trudon de Deux. Let's read the official description. Okay. Um, Green leaf, pine, and cedarwood. Description. A green note that unites. De is about new beginnings, the life of a forest that permeates through the seasons. It is sensually symbiotic, bringing elements together, a cologne that inspires and points at a magical place. Okay, interesting that they use the word cologne. Is it for men? Head notes green leaves, bitter orange. Heart notes juniper, pine. Base notes cedarwood, incense. What is the difference between a cologne and a perfume? Cologne versus perfume. Cologne and perfume differ mainly in their concentration of fragrance oils and how long the scent lasts, rather than being meant for a specific gender. Perfume has a high oil level of 20 to 30% that lasts all day, while cologne has a low level of 2 to 5% and fades fast. Oh, interesting. Why? Then what's the point of it? If it's just like poof and gone. Okay, here's my blind review. Walking through a garden center, shredded lettuce, standing in line behind someone who smokes menthols, watery grocery store tomatoes, winter fresh gum, peppery tropical plants, cold water. This was refreshing, exclamation point, I wrote. Finally, something that intrigues me. Yeah, this is, I think, what I was hoping that the Le Labo coriander would smell like. It had that fresh, peppery scent of being in a well, what do you call the thing where they have all the tropical plants inside? A plant store? No, the thing that ooh, not an Adrian. A botanical garden? A conservatory? I'm thinking of the Garfield Park Conservatory in particular, and all the tropical plants and how it smells. Let's move on to the internet. Google Maps. There's a geothermal bakery that I found in Iceland. One of my friends is in Iceland with his family for the eclipse, and so I was looking around on Google Maps, found some interesting places for him to go to, like a Domino's. He lives in Germany and he loves eating Domino's in Germany, so I said, "You should try the Icelandic version." I also found a blues club that is insane. It's just like Icelandic people singing the blues, and it's just photos of people singing passionately. Geothermal bakery. So they dig holes in the ground where the hot springs are and bake really tall bread in the holes. I tried to pitch this idea in New Mexico when we were in Hot Springs, New Mexico, and we were doing that film festival. And I said, why don't we try and do some geothermal cooking? We could even just like cook things in the hot tubs. Like, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. People do this in Iceland, apparently. um, what's it called? Fontana Geothermal Bakery. And then there's a nearby place called Hot Spring Bake Bread in the Ground. It's a tourist attraction and it's open 24 hours. It's by a lake. I'm not going to try and pronounce the Icelandic town. Anyway, let's move on to Reddit. This is also a debut section. It's Reddit. My sister sent me this. It is a Reddit thread about the David protein bars, which have, I mean, there have been so many controversies surrounding David food products and all the crazy ingredients. Apparently, they're putting Olestra in their protein bars, and that's why they're so low calorie. And so, I mean, this happened in what, the early 2000s when they originally released Olestra chips and Olestra Lays, and I think under the Wow, like Lay's Wow. And then people start getting sick. I didn't realize that orange wax comes out of you and will stain your car, your home, anything you own, your clothes. So I can't, I mean, I thought Olestra was banned. Anyway, in this Reddit thread, someone linked a cracked.com article called The Potato Chip That Destroyed. Wait, hold on, let me click on it. The Potato Chip That Destroyed the Bowels of America. I did read most of it and I pulled a quote out. Here we go. Most 10-year-olds would indeed be a little alarmed to observe a parent suddenly crap their pants so hard that car's airbag goes off. So people were like getting into car accidents because they were crapping their pants on the road. I'm shocked that it's not banned and that David, the brand, was able to. What were they thinking? Anyway, let's get into TikTok. A little update on the Harris Teeter Bar in Charlotte, North Carolina. They have their own TikTok account. The username is teeter_tavern. I want to talk about the Ellen DeGeneres product line that I discovered via TikTok. Somebody posted a video on TikTok of an Ellen DeGeneres branded cheese grater. This person is Squiddy in Texas. I thought it was one of those, Obvious Planet or Obvious Plant. There's someone who makes fake products that are really funny. I thought at first it was that. And when I tried to Google Ellen DeGeneres cheese grater, Google's AI thing that comes up all the time now told me that it was a prank, and I thought, "I don't think it is." And it's real. Okay, so Ellen DeGeneres had a product line called ED by Ellen DeGeneres, Erectile Dysfunction by Ellen DeGeneres. So I confirmed the existence of this product via her Wikipedia page and by searching for ED by Ellen DeGeneres on eBay and finding all kinds of products like holiday bowls, tweed jackets. Um, Anyway, she launched this lifestyle brand under the name Edie by Ellen in the summer of 2015. This is a quote from Wikipedia. After her initial collections, the brand name then changed to Edie Ellen DeGeneres to incorporate the licensed arm of her brand. The collection includes apparel, shoe, accessory, pet, baby, and home items. DeGeneres' dog collection at PetSmart was launched in February 2017, and a cat line was introduced a year later. I'm Like, I mean, she is a comedian, so do you think she thought it would be funny to call it ED? I mean, I don't think it exists anymore. I think it failed. It's also so random. You're just making random products that could exist in a house, like a cheese grater. Okay. Um, 3 more TikTok videos, and then we'll get into what I ate. Now, this was a TikTok video that surprised me. Bull Island Southern Sissy is this person's name. And she is frying red tomatoes with her entire family. They cleared off their entire kitchen countertop because they're probably making, I don't know, 50 to 100 pounds of not fried green tomatoes, fried red tomatoes. Now she's saying, they have more moisture than they're riper, they have more moisture than the green tomatoes, but they taste better. You'll never go back. You have to cut them thicker. And they last, they keep. So you make them all at once, you give them out to your neighbors, you have a feast, and then you send people home with them because they hold up. And she does a panko and flour batter, and then with a buttermilk egg dip. I'm intrigued. I would like to try a fried red tomato. All right. Next is fermented mayonnaise. Dish by David. Do you ever wonder why store mayonnaise can sit in your fridge for half a year? Blah, blah, blah. Wait, there was something weird about this. Oh, he puts a spoonful of cultured yogurt ferments, he says, in your mayonnaise. Okay. Squishy cakes. I've talked about this person before. They made that really big Russian marshmallow cake that had like a really thin layer of cake and then it was 90% marshmallow. So this person is just going on a squishy cake journey. They're making squishy cakes from around the world. Their name is Food Eating Fun. And they look very young. What are they making? Cake gula. I don't know. What country is this from? Anyway, they're making another squishy cake, and I don't know what it is. All right, let's get into what I ate last week. I'm trying to keep this under an hour. July 27th, 2026, it was a Monday, 8 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 9:30 a.m. Leftover Panang curry over rice. 1 p.m. a slice of vanilla cake and a bottle of Health-Ade Cayenne kombucha. 3 p.m. Vietnamese chicken salad made at home. 5:30 p.m. Tavern pizza with onions. Tavern cheese pizza with onions and Texas Pete garlic hot sauce made at home. 6:30 p.m. a slice of vanilla cake. Vietnamese congee and chicken salad. So I saw this TikTok video and it's a girl talking about what her Vietnamese mother makes. Her name is Madeline Meria, Mehria. So it looks like her mom uses a rotisserie chicken and makes soup out of it and then ends up making congee out of it. But then she uses the chicken meat to make chicken salad. So I actually have 4 whole chickens in my freezer that I need to use up, and I needed to make more stock anyway. So I went ahead and made some stock, started a huge stock pot with all kinds of leftover onion scraps and whatnot in my that I keep in my freezer. And I took the chicken out after a while, pulled all the meat off, put the chicken carcass back in the stock and let it go overnight. And here's what I did with the chicken meat. I made the chicken salad. So the recipe from TikTok is cabbage, cilantro, chicken in parentheses tossed with ginger scallion oil, salt, and pepper, vinegar onions, which is in parentheses yellow onions, salt, pepper, sugar, vinegar. It's like a quick pickle, sambal, and fish sauce. And here's what I did. I didn't use cilantro for safety because of cyclospora. I didn't have ginger scallion oil, so I used some S&B brand chili oil with crunchy garlic. I don't have sambal on hand. I used to always have sambal, but I never use it because I don't like the bitter, salty taste of it. I prefer sriracha. So I put sriracha in instead. Plus, I already had the chili aspect of it from the S&B chili oil. And then I have fish sauce, but it's in my cabinet, closed. It's sleeping. So I used the open bottle of vegan pineapple fish sauce that I have. This was pretty good. I didn't love it. So I did pack it and make Brian eat it for lunch every day. Did I also oh, yeah, cabbage, yeah. I don't know if I make this again. Let's talk about the tavern pizza. I got this recipe from Dave's Pizza Oven, who I found on TikTok. And his pizzas look pretty good. He tries out a lot of different pizza recipes. He's one of the many, many men on TikTok making pizzas. Um, his original recipe made 4 pizzas, so I made 1/4 of the recipe to make 1 pizza. So this was the recipe for the dough. A fourth, 1 dough. 182 grams of bread flour, 7.5 grams of cornmeal, 1 gram of instant yeast, 4 grams of salt, 2 grams of sugar, 95 grams of water, 15 grams of olive oil. And I do love that he includes baking percentages. So it's 50% hydration. Oh, and he includes water temps, 90 degrees for the water. So I made this dough on a Saturday. It doesn't really take that much kneading. You like make it, let it rest. You knead it for 2 minutes by hand. Then you put it in an oiled container covered in the fridge. So I did that on Saturday. Sunday, I rolled it out on the counter in between or like on a piece of parchment paper. So this recipe makes a 14 to 16 inch pizza, he said, which is kind of too big. My pizza stone is only about 12 inches. So I rolled it out to 13 inches and then you have to dock the dough. I used a fork. Um, at 13 inches, I thought, ooh, I wonder if it's going to be too thick because I want that nice cracker style Chicago bar pizza. But excuse me, tavern pizza. But it was actually pretty thin. So I don't know what it would actually be like if you rolled it out to 16 inches. It might just completely disappear. So after that, you're supposed to cure the dough. So you can leave it out. I guess some places in Chicago do this at room temperature and leave it out. I was worried about the cats. I mean, I could just leave it out in the oven turned off and keep it safe from the cats. I ended up leaving it in the fridge. I put it in between 2 pieces of parchment paper. Now the top side is going to sort of turn into leather, and then that's gonna be the bottom. So you flip it over to actually make the pizza. So I baked this off, or I took it out of the fridge a few hours ahead of time to sort of come to room temp, which happens pretty quickly because it's so thin. I baked it at 500 degrees for about 12 minutes. I baked it a little longer since it was a little bit thicker, and my oven doesn't really get that hot. I think Dave recommends doing 8 to 10 minutes, but yeah, I definitely let it go a little longer. Took it out of the oven. Well, what did I put on it? Just cheese and some thinly sliced onion. Um, and then once I pulled it out of the oven, I topped it with some parm. It tastes like a home run in frozen pizza or a giant Cheez-It. Brian and I ate the whole thing. Brian said 10 out of 10. I liked it. I didn't love it. I mean, it was good. But again, I'm always extra critical when I make something because when you eat your own food, you're just, it doesn't taste as good. But that's why my mom always used to make me make her tuna salad sandwiches at home because it tasted better because somebody else was making it. So I've actually been to a real home run in restaurant, which you can go to the home run in restaurant in Chicago in like the suburbs, and they make pizza and it is not the same. It's like kind of a thick, sloppy pizza. But the frozen version is what this tastes like a like a fatty, short crust. Or, I never got to try the giant Cheez-It that they released for Taco Bell, but I imagine it probably tasted like this. Okay. And I was really intimidated by this process because I was like, oh, it's a 3-day process and you have to cure the dough. It's actually so easy. And if I had like a bunch of people coming over, I would do this again. July 28th, 2026, Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 9:30 a.m. Leftover Panang curry over rice. 12:30 p.m. A pour of Health Aid, blood orange, carrot, and ginger kombucha. 1:30 p.m. A slice of vanilla cake. 5 p.m. Udon noodles and baby bok choy in chicken stock made at home. 6:30 p.m. A chocolate chip cookie made at home. I added S&B Japanese seasoning and soup mix to fresh chicken stock that I had made the day before. Well, I made it overnight, so it was done this day. So I had all kinds of chicken stock to use. So of course I made soup. I just decided to keep it simple and season the fresh stock with the S&B Japanese seasoning and soup mix. And it was so, I mean, I think I added a touch of salt on top of that, but it was so, it tasted like eating Cheetos in the same way that when I was little, the taste of MSG haunted me because I didn't know what it was. It took me years to figure out that what I was craving was Cheetos or actually MSG. Okay, so there's this clip from Winnie the Pooh, the TV show, where there are these crows that are gang stalking Rabbit and his vegetables, and they're always eating his vegetables. I'm pretty sure that this might be a fever dream because I did watch it when I was sick a lot. I think there's a scene where the crows are eating Cheetos. And I remember watching that scene and my mouth would salivate and I didn't know why, because it wasn't the cheese flavor that I was remembering. It was another aspect to it that I couldn't quite pin down. And I was haunted by it. I just thought, what am I craving? It's not Cheetos. There's some sort of back of the mouth flavor that I need. It's MSG. So this soup and seasoning mix tastes like craving Cheetos, but not the cheese. Does that make sense? Anyway, someone named Rihanna on TikTok posted a chocolate chip cookie recipe that has 1 million likes, despite not having accurate recipe measurements. So I was deciding between this chocolate chip cookie recipe and another one to recreate a sort of grocery store cookie, school cafeteria cookie, this like super soft oil-based chocolate chip cookie that's like sort of lustrous like a greasy potato chip, not matte, not crispy, not chewy, just soft. And these looked really perfect, this person Rihanna. So I decided it was worth the gamble to make a random TikTok recipe. Also, I sent both this recipe and another one to my sisters, and they chose this one. So here's the recipe. This is a halved version. 1 stick of melted butter, half a cup of light brown sugar, 1/4 cup sugar, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon vanilla, 1 cup flour, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon salt. I gotta say, the dough was super wet, and I was like, The recipe then said to do a 2-hour fridge rest to set it up. And the dough did set up. I baked off 4 cookies after a 2-hour fridge rest to test. And the cookies spread out way too much. It reminded me of the time I confused sorry. It reminded me of the time I confused a quarter cup of butter for a quarter pound of butter and my cookies spread out into a giant sheet of paper because I used way too much butter. So I generally avoid melted butter chocolate chip cookie recipes because they spread so much in my experience. I don't like that type of cookie, that sort of like flat browned chocolate chip cookie. I remember my mom got into melted butter chocolate chip cookie recipes in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they made me so mad because they weren't Entenmann's grocery store cookies. They weren't Freihofer's grocery store cookies. I do not want that style cookie. I want a flat cookie, but in the way that it's like one fourth of a, like one fourth to one third of a hockey puck, like hockey puck shaped, but not as tall. So, fortunately, I only baked off 4 of the cookies, so I decided to add a little bit more flour to the recipe and let the dough set up for longer in the fridge. Now, here's what I think would happen. They're just giving 1 cup of flour as a measurement. That's not a lot of flour to begin with. And as you probably know, flour measurements can vary, or like 1 cup of flour can range from like 30 to 50 grams, depending on how you scoop the flour into the cup. So obviously the flour and butter ratio is off here and causing the cookies to spread way too much. More on that because I bake this cookie off like 3 more times throughout the week. Okay, July 29th, 2026 was a Wednesday, 7 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 9:30 a.m. A bacon, egg, and cheese wrap from Whole Foods and a can of Stumptown Cold Brew Delight with creamer. Cake Room. New York Times Cooking Page a Day calendar recipes for no churn salted caramel ice cream, salad pizza with white beans and parmesan, seared chicken thighs with cherry tomatoes and olives, air fryer spicy chicken wings, and bacon, egg, and cheese fried rice. 1 p.m. A cup of coffee with creamer at the office. 4 p.m. Back to nature, white cheddar, cheesy crackers, and a pour of Health Aid, blood orange, carrot, and ginger kombucha. 7 p.m. Panang curry with pork, tofu, broccoli, and Thai basil over basmati rice made at home. 8:30 p.m. Tony's white chocolate. I didn't have lunch to bring to the office, so I did stop at Whole Foods before work and get one of those bacon, egg, and cheese wraps and a can of Stumped Down cold brew coffee, which is never worth it. They're not good. They're like $5 and they kind of taste awful. I don't know. They're not as good as whatever. So got back into my car after going to Whole Foods, and I did that thing where in the newer cars, sometimes you can't tell if you turned your car all the way on or not. So accidentally only partially turned my car on, and then I tried to drive away, and my car just kept rolling backwards. And I couldn't do anything about it. I mean, I could press the brake, but no matter what gear I was in, my car just rolled backwards. So I called Brian in a panic, and I was like, "What do I do? My car's rolling away." And he told me to turn the car on and off again, and that totally fixed it. It's like when with, like, a regular ignition, if you, like, turn it on just one click and the radio turns on, that's what my car was in. But you can't really tell that because of the way that modern cars are set up. I really miss just normal cars. Cars are just gonna keep getting worse and worse. Um, and I like some of the features that it has, like, it'll tell you when you're trying to move over into a lane if someone's there, but I think it's dangerous to become reliant on that because you can turn those features off, and it's like sometimes Brian will drive the car and switch the features, and it's like if I expect something to work and it either breaks because there are a lot more points of failure in a modern car because of all the different wires that you have in there now. Um, like, that could be dangerous. I could just, like, change lanes and think that there's nobody there because it didn't honk at me or beep at me, and then anyway, so I'm super wary of modern cars. Anyway, don't tell Brian that I ate a Whole Foods breakfast burrito. He thinks they're so disgusting, and they are. They are disgusting. This was awful, and he's right. But I remember eating them pre-pandemic and actually liking them. Brian thinks they're disgusting because he worked at Whole Foods for so long, and the taste of any Whole Foods pre-made food is sickening to him because he can taste some sort of ingredient that they use, or he can taste, like, the kitchen that they make it in, which I get. Um, it was k the it was just, like, sloppy and wet with nasty fatty bacon. I should have gotten the potato version, but I don't even know if that would have been better. So that's all I ate until I got home around 4 or 5, and I almost ate a whole box of these white cheddar crackers from Back to Nature, which were really good. I would say they're on par with the white cheddar Cheez-It. I decided to try baking off another cookie. So I baked off a single cookie that I previously added just a little bit more flour to and a little touch of baking powder. I rolled it into a tight ball this time, then I put it on a sheet pan, which I then put into the chest freezer for 40 minutes or so. It was a lot better this time, but it still spread more than I preferred. So I added even more flour and let the rest of the dough set up overnight. I also realized that I was using expired baking soda. So that might be part of what's going on. Um, Also, I have to say, I used to make the chocolate chip cookies at Pies and Thighs, which are incredible, and I wish I had kept the recipe. Like, I don't have my notebook from when I did pastry at Pies and Thighs anymore, unfortunately, but God, they had, like, the best banana cream. I don't like banana cream pie, but I loved the Nilla wafer crust that they used, and they had some of the best chocolate chip cookies, my god. And sometimes they, like, give their recipe out. No, there's no recipe on the internet for the Pies and Thighs chocolate chip cookie, unfortunately. Also, I found Sally's A Baking Addiction has a chewy chocolate chip cookie recipe that looks decent, and I'm gonna put it on my list of things to make, along with a recipe from something called afamilyfeast.com, where this person claims that a random Entenmann's employee gave them the Entenmann's chocolate chip cookie recipe. The cookies don't look like Entenmann's chocolate chip cookies, probably because Entenmann's uses, like, straight up oil, probably, and, like, soybean oil. Anyway, here's what they say. A few weeks ago, Jack was looking through his old recipe. Wait, blah, blah, blah. Okay, shut up. Wait. Converting a recipe that uses 10 pounds of sugar, 4 dozen eggs, and 8 pounds of butter is not as easy as you would think. But with a little trial and error, Jack was able to reduce it down to make 5.5 dozen 1-ounce cookies. Yeah, I mean, oh, here it is. Many years ago, my husband Jack had a friend who once worked for Entenmann's, the company that sells their popular baked. We know what it is. One day, she handed Jack a handwritten recipe for the famous Entenmann's chocolate chip cookies! Exclamation point. The recipe was written to make an industrial batch of 1,320 1-ounce cookies. Jack placed the recipe in a folder of various. Okay, blah blah blah. So maybe we will try that. I need to do some comparisons. I need to do some recipe analysis and actually see, like, what is different about all of these recipes? Like, what about Sally's baking addiction? Like, what the hell is she doing differently? Hers look really good. Um, what is different about hers? I'm scrolling and I don't see the recipe. Okay, all-purpose flour, baking soda. She uses cornstarch, a lot of brown sugar, extra egg yolk. Okay. July 30th, 2026. It was a Thursday. 8 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 9 a.m. Leftover Panang curry over rice. 12 p.m. Back to Nature white cheddar cheesy crackers, a bottle of Health-Ade lemon ginger kombucha, and a chocolate chip cookie made at home. 6:30 p.m. Greek moussaka made at home. 7:30 p.m. Chocolate chip cookies. I baked off another cookie after rolling it into a ball, sticking it in the freezer on the sheet tray for about 30 minutes. It took about 18 minutes baking, and it looked more like what I was looking for. The flour helped. It was not 100% like what the recipe looked like on TikTok, but remarkably better. Meanwhile, Brian had to work a conference all week and weekend, and they had to do a potluck on top of that. And he was getting home at like 8 p.m. every night. And so he just didn't have time to make anything. He kept saying, "What should I make? What should I make?" And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make potato salad because we have a towering heap of potatoes in our spare bedroom that needs to be consumed. So I peeled a bunch of potatoes, cut them up, put them in a pot of water with salt, vinegar, and sugar, boiled them until tender, and then I put them out onto a sheet tray to cool with a little bit more vinegar splashed over them. I looked at Kenji's potato salad recipe for this method. That's what he recommends doing. The potatoes, when they're hot, absorb the vinegar better. I don't know if I would do this method again. Um, for me, the potatoes seemed to form a skin when they dried out on the sheet tray. When they cooled on the sheet tray, they also inadvertently dried out a bit and got a skin, um, which was a weird texture thing. Um, I would maybe drain them and then let them steam a bit more in the pot that I cook them in, and maybe even shake them around in the pot a bit to sort of break them up, because I think that rough surface helps them grab the sauce better and creates a more cohesive pasta salad than just chopped up potatoes. So then I made a sauce with Duke's mayonnaise, some grainy mustard, a f I think I did 3 or 4 jammy boiled eggs cut into quarters, a ton of chives from the garden, diced homemade pickled jalapenos, apple cider vinegar, grated garlic cloves, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. Um, After making this, I went on my phone, and insanely enough, my New York Times cooking app widget on my phone displayed a recipe for pepperoncini potato salad, which is basically almost exactly what I made with pickled pepperoncini, basically. Except they use tahini and parsley. Tahini is interesting. I'm avoiding parsley for safety. Sickle spore. I gotta say, the best potato salad I ever made was like a bacon and lime potato salad. I wish I had written down that recipe. I talk about it all the time. Um, so then it was like 3 quarts of potato salad. Brian brought this to work the next day for the potluck. He said that all the children that showed up loved it, which I didn't realize there'd be a bunch of children there. I wouldn't have put the jalapenos in it. But they loved it regardless. Probably loved it because they didn't know they were in there. I made more Greek moussaka, pretty much the same as last time, except I didn't have zucchini and it was missed. I think that the layer of zucchini or eggplant or like something other than potatoes to break it up is really needed. Um, I also didn't have any harissa paste, so I didn't have that aspect, but it was good. My bechamel was a little drier this time, I think, and it didn't like puff up in the same way that it did the first time. Like my bechamel was a little bit more loose, a little bit more milky, and it really like puffed up and sort of caught and like charred in a way that you expect. Um, anyway, back to the cookies. Oh, did I bake off more? I think I baked more cookies off. I gotta say, I use these Guitar Center milk chocolate chips that are kind of big. Um, they're good, but I think I would go back to semi-sweet chocolate. They get kind of dry on the outside, in the same way that the potatoes kinda got dry. Um, my cat really liked the cookies and tried to eat them out of Brian's mouth. July 31st, 2026, it was a Friday. 8:30 AM, counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 9:30 AM, leftover Panang curry over rice. 12:30 PM, leftover Panang curry over rice. 2 PM, a chocolate chip cookie made at home. 6 PM, udon noodles and chicken stock with S&B Japanese soup and seasoning. Soup mix and seasoning. 7 PM, chocolate chip cookies. Wait. Yes, I made more chocolate chip cookies. So this was the other TikTok recipe that my sisters rejected. This recipe is by someone named Bree Hines. They look like perfect grocery store Entenmann's cookies to me. They're a little mounded, but they're small. I saw a similar recipe on TikTok that had a package of vanilla pudding mix added, which actually might be good because I do like that density in a cookie, not a cake. Um, but I didn't like the look of the vanilla pudding mix cookies. They look too domed and puffy and matte instead of glimmering with fat and having these like sort of crevices. So Brie Hines' TikTok recipe, it has over 750,000 likes and slightly more accurate measurements. They're called perfect chocolate chip cookies. It's one softened stick of butter, half a cup of white sugar, 1/4 cup packed brown sugar, 1 egg, don't overmix it, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1.5 cups of flour, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cups chocolate chips. So you can already see that what are the differences here? The white sugar and the brown sugar are basically reversed. This uses less brown sugar, which I like more brown sugar. I think it gives better flavor and it creates a softer cookie if it's more brown sugar than white sugar. The egg mixed in. Well, first of all, it's softened butter, not melted. I think I over whipped the butter and eggs together, and I made sure to not over mix the egg because that was the key part of this ingredient. She said, just like stir the egg in for like 15 seconds in your mixer. Like, do not incorporate the egg. And then also this has a cup and a half of flour for 1 stick of butter. So it has 50% more flour than the previous recipe. Bake at 350 for 9 to 11 minutes. No chill time. I was worried at first, so I tested one cookie. And then you're supposed to leave it on the hot pan to finish cooking for 30 minutes. The one cookie came out, so I went ahead and I just baked them all off. No chill time. These were good. I think I liked the other cookie better, probably for a few reasons. Like flavor-wise, I like the other cookie better because I added more salt to the batter, plus more brown sugar. I don't know. I still think, I mean, these were really good. They were a little bit too matte. I didn't like the way that they looked. I need to keep searching. I need to figure it out. And I will keep going. August 1st, 2026 was a Saturday. 8 AM, counterculture coffee with half and half made at home. 10:30 AM, a cold brew with half and half from Liturgy Beverage Company in Durham, North Carolina. 11:30 AM, a Doritos walking taco and cheese curds from Cookout in in Creedmoor, North Carolina. 2:30 PM, 2 chocolate chip cookies. 7 PM, soft boiled egg, potato, and ham gratin made at home, and 2 glasses of Kloster Neustift Abbazia di Novacella Kerner. Um, so Brian was working, so I decided to drive all the way to my least favorite place on earth, the farmer's market, where people are just forgetting how to walk, moving at a glacial pace. It's awful. Oh god. But I thought, "I need flour. I'm baking a ton. I need flour. I'm out of flour, and I wanna shop local." And Red Tail Grains, I could get their stuff shipped to my house, but how stupid is that? Like, they're a 36-minute drive away at the farmer's market. Let me go pick up their stuff. Also, it's $100 shipping. It's a $100 order minimum to get free shipping. And I thought, I really want this new sprouted grain flour that they have. They have an AP flour that's sprouted grain. I was like, let me go and get it. The person in front of me bought the last bag of the flour that I wanted. I said, okay, well, it's like 9 a.m. You have 3 more hours of the farmer's market. Do you have any more product? And they said, no. And I said, what the hell is the point of the farmer's market if you don't even have back stock of anything? So I left. I bought some flowers and I walked around the block and I was like, let me at least get an iced coffee. So I went and tried to get iced coffee at this place called Foster's that had an insane line. I stood in line for about 1 or 2 minutes before I thought, "This is crazy," and I walked away, and then simply walked next door into the Durham Food Hall and immediately got a coffee from a coffee shop in the food hall that had no line, that was probably just as good. I mean, they serve Heart Coffee from Portland. They serve other places, other roasters too, but, I was like, "Why is nobody in line at this coffee shop?" Is it because of their name, Liturgy? Is it, like, super Christian and people are not wanting to go to a Christian coffee shop? But I went on their website. I don't think that they're Christian. At the same time, while I was at the Durham Farmers Market, I was standing off to the side, like, looking for a place to get coffee, and these 2 Gen Xers rolled up on a tandem bike that had a speaker on it, and it was blasting aggressively Christian hyperpop. And they were taking their damn time locking up the bike, blasting the music the entire time. Finally, when they were ready to cruise the farmer's market, they turned the music off. But I was just like, I asked Brian this. I was like, is is this like a demographic of people that exists in Durham? Because I've never encountered people like this before. Gen Xer, aggressive Christian. Like, I've never even heard this music of this genre of music before. And Brian said, unfortunately, nothing surprises me about Durham. But it's like the kind of person you might see in it's the kind of person I would imagine I would run into in a sort of hip, gentrified town in northern Idaho. Very confusing. Anyway, Brian finally got home from work. We kept trying to we talked about getting a quesarito from Taco Bell for like an hour, and I finally realized that it's only at about 20% of Taco Bell locations, and mine is not one of them. Neither of the ones around me are offering quesaritos, unfortunately. So I decided to make a dish that mm, I guess was like in my mind, but then I saw a Jacques Pepin video and it kind of confirmed what I wanted to make. So I buttered these 2 individual gratin dishes, the 2 metal ones that my mom got me for Christmas from Made In that I emailed them about because they don't specify the capacity on the dishes. They never email me back. I had some leftover cooked potatoes. This is a leftovers dish. So I had leftover bechamel from the Greek moussaka because I didn't want to overfill it like last time. I had leftover cooked potatoes from the Greek moussaka. And I had a big fat I had a big fat Neiman Ranch applewood smoked uncured ham steak that was on sale. So I seared that on both sides and then cut it into maybe like 2-bite pieces. So, let's see, what did I do? Buttered the dishes, put a layer of leftover cooked potatoes at the bottom with some salt. I put those under the broiler to get the potatoes going while I seared the ham. And then I had some soft boiled eggs, which I peeled and cut in half. Took the gratin dishes out of the oven, cut up the ham and put a layer of ham down. Then I put the soft boiled eggs split open on top of that, covered the eggs with the leftover bechamel and some thinly sliced cheddar. And then I broiled that for, I don't know, about 5 minutes until the bechamel started to catch. And it really like finished the soft boiled eggs perfectly. Like they were still a little bit jammy, but they didn't have any loose whites. Um, and then I topped with chives. So let's look at the recipe that I sort of um, based this on. Jacques Pepin.
Hi, I'm Jacques Pepin and I'm cooking at home.
Okay, could you hear that video? That was Jacques Pepin talking to us. What does he make? Um, Okay, I can't remember what I actually saw. I saw some other recipe, I guess, maybe, but this one's kind of weird. This is butter, flour, you make a roux, then add milk. So you make a bechamel, then 6 hard cooked eggs, 1 mushroom, quarter cup heavy cream, half a cup of corn, mozzarella, which actually I used, which was in the bechamel, 2 slices of diced ham, huh? Chives, Parmesan, salt, and pepper. So pretty similar. And then he puts it in a gratin dish and pours bechamel over it and cooks it off until the bechamel catches. And yeah, eggs gratin with ham and bechamel sauce by Jacques Pepin. Okay, thank you. And then this wine, I drank this wine, which I butchered. This is that wine that I got at the bookstore in Oxford, the gentrifying bookstore. Um, I was very confused. I think it's an Italian wine, but it feels German. Kloster Neuss, if I don't know, guys. 100%, it's 100% Kerner. Soil type, permeable moran moranic deposits composed of mica schist, para gneiss, and quartzite. 650 to 800 meters elevation. South, southeast, southwest orientation. Vinified and aged 6 months in stainless steel tanks using indigenous yeasts. 14,000 cases produced annually. The producer is Abbazia di Novacella, so that's obviously Italian. Region is Trentino Alto Adige. Kerner. Practicing organic. It's a white wine. Press reviews. James Suckling a couple days ago said a succulent and lively white wine with ripe lemons, fresh flowers, and some pastry spices. Medium bodied with fresh acidity, vivid and precise with a salty finish. Drink now. I did like this. James Suckling. Okay, August 2nd, 2026. It was a Sunday, 8 a.m. Counterculture coffee with half and half made at home, 9:30 a.m. Buttermilk pancakes with maple syrup and salted Danish butter, and North Country applewood smoked bacon made at home. 1:30 p.m. 2 chocolate chip cookies. 5:30 p.m. San Marino fried vegetable croquettes with bulldog tonkatsu sauce, baby bok choy and cabbage slaw, and leftover basmati rice made at home. I didn't have any eggs because I used them all in the eggs gratin. So I had 2 packs of bacon. They were buy one, get one. No eggs. 2 packs of bacon, no eggs. So stupid. Um, and then I was like, I'm gonna make pancakes and bacon. Then I realized I don't have any eggs, not only to just eat eggs, but to put in the pancakes. So I did the Alison Roman perfect buttermilk pancakes recipe, again, a half version, but without the egg. So I was like, this is kind of like a wacky cake version of the Alison Roman buttermilk pancakes. So I decided to go full wacky cake and use oil instead of butter. So 1 cup of flour. I use mostly all-purpose flour, but I'm running low on it, so I added 2 tablespoons of cake flour, and then to fill up the cup, I milled a quarter cup of some hard white wheat that I had. Lem freshly milled hard white wheat berries. Um, so that was a cup of flour total, 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, 3/4 teaspoons baking powder, 3/4 teaspoons baking soda. I got some fresh baking soda. Heaping half teaspoon of diamond crystal kosher salt, heaping 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk to account for there not being an egg. It was a cup and a quarter of buttermilk, but I add a little extra because no egg. So I let the batter set up for 30 minutes at room temp to thicken, while also letting the salted butter and the maple syrup come up to room temp and preheating the oven for bacon. The pancakes felt denser than usual, but they were still pretty good. I think I think the egg I don't know, I did some Googling and people on Reddit were like, "You don't really need to add the egg." And it's like, "Yeah, you don't. You can make it without it, but I think it's better with the egg." Um, what? Tried to get a question, but they aren't available in my area. What do you think that means? Eh. Never had raw bok choy before. So I made I had some bok choy and I was like, "What the hell am I gonna do with this?" I have 1 baby bok choy. So I thinly sliced it with some cabbage and made a really quick slaw with it. Sugar, salt, black pepper, garlic powder. Let that sit in the fridge for like 30 minutes to an hour, and then I drained it because it let off a lot of water. Then I resalted it and finished it with some sesame oil. And it was pretty good. It was really good with the Japanese, croquettes. I got the well, I've had the curry version a few times now, but I just got the plain fried vegetable version, and it's just as good as the curry version. It's insanely good. Um, honorable mentions, I still haven't made the New York Times black and white cookies. Still haven't made the New York Times version of the crumb cake. Still haven't made the King Arthur blueberry buckle, although my sister did over the weekend. Um, I still wanna make wacky cake with mayonnaise, chocolate wacky cake with mayonnaise. I do wanna try the I Am Baker/Cupcake Project vanilla cake. Oh, let me add KA sour cream coffee cake, but with vanilla buttercream. And I really did like the Preppy Kitchen vanilla buttercream. I mean, I know they're all the same, but Preppy Kitchen. Okay. And then chocolate chip cookies, we need to keep that going. So I do wanna make the Sally's Baking Addiction version, and I do wanna try the copycat Entenmann's industrial sized chocolate chip cookie batch. Um, that's what I have. Uh, there's one other item that was on my list, but I'm actually making it tonight, so I will talk about that next time. Spoiler alert, it's Massachusetts South Shore bar pizza. Bye.